Welcome to the Catching Up with Casey show. If you are tired of chasing buy-in, frustrated with teams who can't seem to get on the same page, or over the constant struggle of holding people accountable without micromanaging, this is the show for you. I'm Casey Watts, speaker, author, and the creator of the Clarity Cycle Framework. I help leaders just like you take teams from frustration to alignment so teams can work collectively toward a common purpose in a committed way instead of against each other as though they are functioning in different organizations. And we do it all through the craft of clarity. Whether you lead from the middle or you are the front-facing leader of your organization, on this show, we bring clarity to the seemingly small things in leadership that make the biggest difference, because clarity precedes capacity. Now, with all of that said, let's dive into today's episode. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode. What's really cool is I've got almost back-to-back episodes this week, and I love when that happens because it just energizes me so much. So tonight I am joined with Justin Pohlmann. We're going to be bringing clarity to kind of like what I'm going to say is transitions in your life. And really the focus is, or the title of the episode is, what you do is not who you are. So Justin, welcome to the show. Super excited to have you here. Tell everyone a little bit about who you are and the work that you do.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me here. And also the intro video was awesome, by the way. I love
Thanks.
that. But no, so yeah, like you said, I'm Justin. And so what I do is I do two things. So by day, I'm a recruiter. And so I spend, my Monday through Friday, helping find people jobs at our organization that I work with. And then on the side, I'm also a career coach, and not just like helping people find their next job, but really helping them find the work that they're wired to do. And so, yeah, that's what I've been working on.
Yeah. And this topic is super relevant because no, stop. I'm going to stop there because I could dive into it really quickly, and I know we're going to get to it. So I'm not going to jump the gun. Okay. Justin, you and I go way back.
Do.
Like years and years back. I'm going to say back to college years.
Yeah,
Like,
you were still in college. I mean, this was like
yeah,
Harvest Point days. It was way back there.
it was way back. And that have kind of kept touch over social media over the years, but we found each other on LinkedIn, and you started posting a lot of things about the coaching that you're doing. And I was like, oh my gosh, this ties in so well, especially this time of year for so many of the people who are listening to this podcast, because everyone starts to think around October, November, December, like, what are my plans moving forward? Am I going to have to start getting a resume ready? And I think what we're going to talk about today is going to highlight some of that so much. I'm really excited to really pull apart or peel back the layers of attaching yourself to your title. So fun fact, everybody, and I know, Justin, you're going to talk about this a little bit, but we were part of I sang and you played drums in, were we at Harvest Point when we did that?
We were. That was at Harvest Point. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
So
That was a lot
fun.
of fun. That's where we met. We were being a worship band on Sunday
Yeah.
mornings in a small East Texas church, and so
Yeah.
it was
Yeah,
great. It was
absolutely.
so
It
much fun.
was. Yeah. So with that in mind, and you could tell a little bit about that, or you could tell about something else. I always like to ask my guests, like, what's just something average, ordinary about you that people can relate to?
I love that question. I think actually two things that probably most people can relate to. One, I drink probably an unhealthy amount of coffee, both in the morning and throughout the day. And then, as much as I would love to say that we are super adventurous people, after we get the kids to bed and it's just my wife and I, we finally get to unplug and watch a TV show that we get to watch. We really just cycle through like the same four shows over and over again. We don't ever watch anything new.
Okay. What are your shows?
So Friends, when we were first married, that was all we had. Like we never, like we were too poor to afford cable. We was po. Like I always told, like we couldn't even afford to be poor. We was po. And so we had DVDs of Friends. That was it. So we have a Friends quote for everything at our house.
Yeah.
But Friends, How I Met Your Mother, and then like Scrubs, or there's some variety on the like the last three, but like Scrubs or Community have been like the
Yeah.
go-to lately.
That's so funny. So we are the same, but for me, Friends for sure. But Cliff doesn't really, my husband Cliff, for listeners who aren't familiar with who Cliff is, but he enjoys Friends, but he can't quote it like I can. But you know Jules Brooks, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
she can quote Friends like in every conversation in any way possible, and I'm not quite to that extent, but I'm pretty much a big fan of Friends. But our show, like Cliff and I quote The Office all the time. It's almost annoying to other people, but
I'm
not to
actually
us.
kind of embarrassed that I didn't mention The Office in our list. I do love The Office so much.
How dare that not make the very top of your list?
I know it's nerd. It's live. It's nerdy.
It's okay, I forgive you. Um, so yeah. All right. This is awesome. I love that unique thing because man, it is so ordinary and I'm the same way. I want us to dive into tonight's topic and I want you to start let me start just by setting the stage for those of you that are listening and you are in, especially if you are an educator. We get to, like I said, October, November, and we start thinking like you're just, especially if you're someone like me, you're always thinking about what's next for me. What is my next goal? What's the challenge that I want to take on? And you start to think about positions. And it's interesting. I felt, and I'm so curious to know if you felt this way too, Justin, but I felt as an educator who moved into owning a business, that was the hardest transition to feel like it was okay to say, I am a business owner because I identified so much with, I am an educator. And once you put yourself in that box, man, it's really tricky to break outside of that box and feel comfortable with it. So, I I wanna know, Justin, about a time that you lacked clarity around, like, who you were and got so involved in what it was that you were doing that it became you.
Absolutely. So for me, that was definitely music. So yeah, we met when we were still playing at church, and having aspirations of making a living playing music. And thankfully, I had an opportunity just through a lot of work to actually make a living playing music for a while. I got to tour full time. I was teaching drum lessons, all of those things. The dream of anybody that picks up an instrument, right? Like I did it. My job is hitting things with sticks. I've made it. I've arrived. But the sad reality is that tours and babies is a terrible combo. And so life on the road plus life as a dad was just two things for us that were not compatible. And so I knew I had to get off of the road. But so I took a job because I realized at that point in my life I had two marketable skills. I could hit things with sticks and I could talk to people. And apparently only one of those counted in the real world. So I landed at a car dealership, which I thought was going to be fine. I was like, yeah, it's fine. But it wasn't until the drumming went away that I realized I had everything about who I was wrapped up into that. I wanted, and looking back on it now, I was probably just as annoying as like CrossFit people. Like everybody that I met was like, "Hey, I'm a drummer. Hey, I'm a drummer." I figured out some way to work it into a conversation. It was awful, and so, but when I landed at the different job and the drumming went away, I was like, I don't know who I am. I don't know how I fit into the adult world. I hit things with sticks. That's who I was. Like, what do I do next? So that was the moment where I was like, oh, I've got everything that I am wrapped up into this.
Mhm.
And so fast forward for a few years because it literally took me about 3 years to kind of figure it out. I just kind of went through the motions. I was numb to everything for a little while. I was like, just gonna go. I don't know what's going on. Um, and so yeah, it took me a while to work all of that out. But once I did, it was actually through another bad job. Sometimes the best way to learn what you're supposed to do is take the job that you're not supposed to do. But I I went into a sales role because like all of the online personality tests were like, you should be in sales. I'm like, I don't want to be in sales. I'm a horrible salesperson. I didn't like selling cars. Why would I like selling something else? But I'm also a slow learner. And so I was like, yeah, sure, I'll try a sales job. And so I was doing the sales job thing and something came across in the training that I realized that I was on the wrong side of the conversation. And so it was like a role play exercise where, like, as the salesperson, I was selling something to an HR department and we were talking about their problems. And I was like, those problems sound way more interesting than what I'm doing right now. And then the sales trainer mentioned this phrase that I love is like, no problem, no sale. And meaning, like, if you can't uncover your client's problems, you can't pitch a solution to it and all of that. But what it did for me was it gave me an avenue to reverse engineer my career. And so I was like, okay, well, what are the problems that I see in my professional life that I wish I could fix? And so for me, like, everything led towards HR, like the onboarding, the job searching sucks. And so I'm like, if
Mm.
I could help people with that, that would be way better. What brings somebody from like a stranger to a colleague? I'm like, I can help with that. And everything just led to HR for me. And I was like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. And then that's what started my journey to where led to recruiting and career coaching, everything where I'm at now.
And what's your very favorite thing about what you do right now, both as a recruiter, but also as a coach, because you coach as well?
Yes. On the recruiting side, my absolute favorite thing is when I can help somebody that is clear on what they want to do connect to a job that's bigger than themselves. So that's always super rewarding when you've got somebody that's really clear on what they want and you get to kind of help be that bridge to the position that they want. That's so rewarding. On the coaching side, it's kind of getting them to that point to where they're so clear on what they want, helping them work through the lost identity, helping them understand that their identity, their purpose, all of those things have nothing to do with their job. And
Mm.
then working through that, because that's a bold thing to say, and a lot, especially like in the world of like social media, where everything's about finding your purpose and your passion and all of those things. And it's like, okay, cool, but they have nothing to do with your job.
Yeah. Wow. So, can you say more about that? I want you to unpack that a little bit more because you're right. You hear so many people really push for people to figure out what their purpose is, their calling, all of that. Just unpack, like, what else is on your mind about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it starts with identity. So I think understanding who you are is separate from what you do. Yes, what you do and like all the other things kind of play into who you are, but your job is not your personality, right? Like, so getting clear on your core values, what your core beliefs are, and anchoring your identity in that. So that's always step one, is just making sure you're really clear on your values and what you believe in. And then for um, the purpose piece is like, okay, that's the big question, right? What am I supposed to do with my life? What am I here for? And so for me, like the route I always go with it first is, you know me, like you and I believe very similarly. And so as a man of faith, I'm like, look, God gave us our purpose. It's to go love others, spread the gospel, make disciples. End of list. Has nothing to do with the job. Now, for those that don't believe that, totally fine. But your purpose is always going to be something bigger and it's always going to be focused around other people. And so it's finding those people that you want to serve. Again, that's
Hmm.
still not a job. It's focused around serving other people.
Yeah.
Um, and then I like to drill down to like, okay, well, what about like a calling or a mission or passions? Like those kind of three things that kind of separate them out a little bit. And so your passion or your calling is the people that you want to serve. Like I think those people that because I think when anybody stops to really think about the problems that they see, there's certain areas that kind of stick out to them more. Like certain people are more, they care about more things than others. I joke about it like in the church settings, like the people that get upset about the things in church, it's probably where they're being called to serve, and
Yeah.
and super like even like to expand on that part just a second is like people are like, well, they're angry because the color of the carpet's wrong. It's like they care about that and they're upset about that. I'm like, but when you start drilling down, they care about the color of the carpet because they want to make people feel welcomed. And so they want to create like an environment where people feel welcome. And so that's really what's bothering. It has really nothing to do with the carpet. That's just the easy thing to blame. And so like
Yeah.
they care about people feeling welcome. That's their people. And then you think, okay, well, who are the people I want to solve, or who are the people I want to help? What is the problem that they have, and then how can I solve it? And that's your calling. Who are the people that you want to help? What problem do they have? That's your mission. And then what solutions can you bring? That's the part. That's the work that gets you excited. That's where your passion lies. And
Mm.
so all of those things have nothing to do with a specific job. All of those are things that you get to bring with you to whatever job that you have.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And not only that, but if you can separate yourself from the title of a job and you focus on those things, it opens up the opportunities for so many different things. So I am not like, I'm not drilled down to just this one thing. Like for our listeners, it's not just a classroom teacher, it's not just an instructional leader, it's not just a business. Like you can expand that and see yourself in so many different positions.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I know you, because I've heard you mention on previous episodes, I know that, like, the Working Genius was really instrumental in helping me kind of connect some of those dots as well, because it gave it a really simple vocabulary. Because that's where, like, when people are like searching for, like, when I start looking through job searching advice, I'm like, okay, start with tasks, start with the things that you enjoy doing. Like, if a job's going to keep you somewhere for 6 to 8 hours a day, what are some tasks that you could spend 6 to 8 hours a day and not be completely miserable? Like, don't worry about industry. Don't worry about anything else. If I sat you down, it's like, hey, I need you to do this for 6 hours. What could you do? And so
Yeah.
start there and then build up on it.
Yeah. And this is, again, I know I've said this before, listeners, but this is a really good time of year to start doing that. I mean, so many of you are going to be thinking about goals for next year anyway. Why not really start thinking about your core values and the things that Justin mentioned? I'm going to have you mention them again here in just a little bit, but and I probably will include that in the show notes too, just so we have a reference for it. But now is a great time to start thinking about that. It could be in addition to the goals that you're setting, or it could be in lieu of. So earlier you said we've got your. I'm gonna. I'm gonna. I'm not remembering the very first thing, but it's this, and then the
Right.
three things
So,
underneath it.
so we got identity first,
The
and
identity.
then,
That's right.
yeah, identity first, and then your overall purpose is just serve other people, and then your calling, your missions, and your passions.
Yeah, that's
And I
great.
always think that order is like super important, because I think what happens most of the time is we all start with our passions, and so like these are the things I get really excited about, and there's lots of reasons that doesn't work. For one, I think some of the things that we're really passionate about, or that we're interested in, that we think that are passions, like those aren't your jobs. Like, I'm passionate about lots of things. Like, I'm passionate about tacos. I don't need to make that my job. Like, now, if I can get paid to eat tacos, that's a different conversation. We can have that later, but
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
not my job. And so,
It's really cool to hear you say this is super affirming for me in many ways, but I have a Reflective Leaders Institute that I love to take groups of people through it. But a few years ago, I was working with a district in well, it was Columbus City Schools, and they had like 100 instructional coaches, and they had this instructional coaching program for their district. Well, they knew that the program was getting cut. So you take all of these 100 instructional coaches, and now they know, and this was at the beginning of the year, they know that next year their positions were being cut, so they would be put into different positions, or they would choose to go to another district. So we're going through this Reflective Leaders Institute, and the very first thing that we're talking about is identity. And one of the questions was that we really poured into is, what is your why? And it was so interesting for us to try to get down to beyond what your position is and what your position tells you your why needs to be, because so many of them were saying, well, my why is to help students learn. And you heard it over and over again. And I was like, okay, and that's great. But if you step outside of that, then, and you're no longer working in the school district for whatever reason, is your passion still help students learn? Is that still your why? Like, how does this apply to your family? How does it apply to the people at the grocery store that you interact with? How does it apply to the people that you are interacting with at your church? Like, let's go beyond that. And it was such great work, because even Jules and I went through this work together, and she said, I can't see beyond teaching. But what she ended up coming around was, I want people to have fun learning, which applies to anyone,
mhm.
anyone, and really any position that she decides to take on in the future.
Absolutely, because she can take that, like, doesn't even have to be in an education role. She can still find ways to have fun or help making learning fun for everybody around. So yeah,
Yeah.
once you kind of get clear on
Yep.
that, it's so freeing, because it takes all of this expectation that we put on our jobs, it takes it off of that. And so all of a sudden this job just becomes a thing that cool, I get to exchange time for money and get rewarded because of the output, the outcomes that I get to help achieve. And it takes all of that
Yeah,
expectation of like, this job's got to fulfill me and give me all of these things that a job can never really give us anyway.
absolutely. So that kind of leads to my next question because you were a touring drummer. How did you figure out that that was like how did you know that that was coming to an end? Like it was time.
So there's a couple of factors in that. Like I told you, like tours and babies, terrible combo. And so I was touring right after we had our second son, or our second kid. And There's a couple parts of that. It was like I just wasn't enjoying the time away. Our schedules were like completely bipolar. Like so I was doing like Texas touring. So it's like every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you're out on the road, come home Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you're home. And so the schedules of those two things, with two small kids under two at home, kids are in bed by like 8:30, 9 o'clock, and then we're to bed and wake up doing the next thing. And then on the road, shows don't start until 10, 11 o'clock at night, and it's, staying up to like 3 in the morning after everything's all said and done. And so that was really weird, like whiplash of a schedule. But I think one of the things that really broke me is like we were sitting down doing end of the year stuff, and the band that I was playing with was based out of Dallas, and so I was in Nacogdoches, so I was driving like 3 hours one way just to get to the band. And I realized if you'd have locked me in my car February 1st and let me out March 1st, that's how much time I spent just driving back and forth to the band. Doesn't count all the time like on the road, all to the shows and stuff like that. And I was like, literally a month of my life is spent behind the wheel of the car getting to the band, not even playing the shows,
Wow.
just getting there. So I was like, nope, I'm out. Just not worth it at all. Because I think
Yeah.
music is one of those really weird things. Like you have such a like grandiose picture of what it's going to look like, and then once you're on the road and doing it, you realize like this is not the dream that I thought it was.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that can happen with any position too though. Like
Absolutely.
what you envision in your mind because you are putting so much stock into the actual title of the position, and that becomes who you are instead of who you really are. It never is going to live up to the expectation that you've created in your head. What about for someone who is just feeling stuck? Because I mean, I've been there, you've been there. What if they're feeling stuck or they're just unsure about the direction to take? What would you say to them? What would you say to someone?
So if someone's feeling stuck, I would probably spend a little bit of time just kind of drilling down into what's making them feel stuck and like how they're stuck. Because I think there's lots of different ways that someone can be stuck in their career. It's if it's like professionally where they're like, oh, I want to go to other levels and this position's not giving me the opportunities to that, that's stuck. It's stuck in I'm doing this thing, but it's not really what I want to be doing. That kind of stuck. And so they're stuck in that zone, or they're stuck in a job where it's just they're not working in the right areas, like they're not working in their genius, and so they're bored. And so stuck is the default. Like, well, I'm not being challenged. I'm not connected to the work, the outcomes that are coming from what I'm doing. So I'm just bored and stuck. So I would drill down. I would spend a little bit of time really kind of clarifying how you're stuck, and then because it makes it a lot easier to move forward once you know what you're coming from.
Mhm.
I think it's really hard to move towards something if you're not clear what you're moving away from or why you're moving from it.
Yeah.
Because
Absolutely. Can I pause you there because
yeah,
it's what you're saying is so great. Please, if you're listening to this and you are feeling like burned out is a word that I hear a lot, or stuck or whatever the word is, really target how and why. Because making a move isn't always necessarily the best next thing because you could find yourself in exactly the same situation. Okay.
absolutely. I call
Just
I call
wanted
that the
to
country band effect. So again, I told you I'm a slow learner, and so as a drummer, like country music is wonderful. I had got to play it for a year and a half, and it was great. But that's not my go-to. Like that's not my particular favorite style of music. But I talked myself into playing for so many different country bands because they paid. And I was like, oh, this bar band's not great. I'll try the next one because surely that'll be different. And like, I talked myself into so many bad gigging situations because I'm not that bright. And I was just like, I'm just going to make these stupid moves and keep talking myself into the same thing because I was never clear on what it was that I really wanted. I just knew I wanted to play drums. That's at that point, I was like, I just want to play drums. And so anybody that'll pay me to play drums, I'll go play. But there was so many gigs, those, I'd sitting there. I'm like, why am I here? This is not enjoyable at all.
mm,
Um, it was just talking myself into situation after situation that wasn't right. And so, yeah, I would say getting super clear on what you want um, is really, really important. Or not, you're just going to hop from country band to country band, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. That reminds me, often I talk with people about, we have people who are position chasers, like high achieving people. I am honestly one of those people, but I just got to a point where it's, why am I climbing the ladder? Like what is the purpose in climbing the ladder and getting to that next position and that next position and that next position? And I'm afraid that we fear lateral moves instead of climbing up the ladder, but those lateral moves can be really, really powerful because you're learning and growing no matter where you are on the rungs of the ladder, whether you're climbing up the ladder or you're going across the ladder. So
Yeah.
what that reminds me of too.
Yeah, no, because I tell people that all the time. Like, because as a recruiter, a lot of people ask about growth opportunities, right? That's something that everyone's always wanting about. It's like, what does growth look like? And I tell people all the time, there's two kinds of growth you need to look at. There's vertical growth and there's horizontal growth. Vertical growth is climbing up the ladder, getting them more responsibilities, those kinds of things. And there's horizontal growth where you're broadening your skill set and deepening your knowledge base, equally important. And so finding a place that you have room for both, because sometimes what you think is that vertical move that you want to take is really like horizontal move, or you find that right ladder once you start moving horizontally, like, oh, this is, you're learning more things. You're like, oh, this is really where I want to be.
Yeah.
That's really how I fell into recruiting. I thought HR was like, I want all of the things HR. I want all of the HR stuff. And then the more I touched all of the other pieces of HR, I'm like, I want recruiting. Like that's where
Yeah.
I want to be. And so, but if I never had chances to grow horizontally, I would have never done that.
Mhm. Yeah. Hey, before the show, you and I were talking about, and I want to bring this up again because I think it's really interesting to talk about, especially based on what we've already discussed. You said, maybe I asked you in the episode, but no, I didn't. This was before the show. We talked about how when you're coaching people, you get a high from it almost like you did when you were on stage. Can you tell more about that?
Sure, absolutely. So I think that comes from really being connected, or being able to be a part of an outcome that matters to me. And so, be like the high of being on stage is really unique because there's the thrill of the lights, the sound, whatever it is. There's people get different excitements for different reasons for it, but there's something really satisfying about that. Like I got to be a part of something bigger. Like I got to be a part of a show where people danced, people had a really good time, and like I got to be a part of that. That's really, really energizing. And so there's times when I'm coaching people that like we get off the call. I'm like, I got to be part of something bigger than myself. Like we got to be a part of something. Like they were mentally dancing because they made a connection or something like that. And it was very, very similar. And I realized for myself, like it's like, oh, because when we hung up and I realized like that feeling was the same. It's like, this is definitely what I'm supposed to be doing. Which ties into everything that we're talking about. Like when you're chasing outcomes that are important to you and that you care about, doesn't matter what the industry is, like you get that excited, and I know that for like educators and being really connected to the bigger purpose, it feels like that's what I'm all about. But really drilling down into the outcome specifically, into what you're doing that gives you all of that, all the good feelings, that's where
Mhm.
the fun stuff is.
Yeah. It's I have similar, I mean, we talked about this too. I have similar experiences because as you know, I have always enjoyed being on a stage, and it's not about being on stage for lack of a better word, this is a terrible word, but it's not about showing off. It's not about me. It is totally about the audience. It's totally about the people who are in the room and the energy that you get from them. And I love that feeling so much. And I chase that feeling. And that's what I did when I was singing or performing piano or whatever it might be. It's a feeling that I chase, but it's so much more about, oh my gosh, we had moments together and they were powerful moments. Um, and I think I had that in teaching too, like, man, you just have those moments and you walk away and you just feel on fire. Like if every and it fuels you for all of the days moving forward for all of those tough days, for all of those hard days that you think you're not going to get through. You are waiting for those moments that set you on fire.
And I think the fun part about that too, and that like that relates really well to being in a band or being on stage, it's like those moments that it's never about just like for you either. It's always about those moments of connection. Like, if like you're on stage with like a bandmate and you both hit the right thing and it makes you both go like something smells really bad. When a musician makes the stinky face, things are really good.
Yeah.
But also like when you have those moments with the audience and stuff like that, where there's that connection, where it's like boom, like we're all on that same page for that moment. Those kind of moments can follow you, like no matter what your profession is. Like I've got those moments when a hiring manager like really lights up about a candidate that I was able to provide them. I've got those moments when I'm talking to a candidate and getting to explain the role a little bit more, and you can just hear like their excitement like just bubble up, or
Yeah.
when I'm talking to somebody and they start talking about something they're excited about, they start talking really fast like I am now and moving their hands really crazy like I do. It's always so much fun, but it's those moments that are with other people that you get to make those connections that make it all even better.
Yep. It's no surprise. My favorite moments are when you see the light bulbs and they're like, I have clarity now. And I'm like, yes, that's what we were going for. I love those moments so much. And that's when I know this is the work for me.
Absolutely.
Man, this has been such a good conversation. And I want people to be able to connect with you. So how can they do that?
Yes. So I'm on LinkedIn. There's not a lot of Justin Pohlmanns floating around. So, and very few of them that have a big gray beard at this point. So yeah, you find me on LinkedIn. That's really the only socials that I use because I'm not cool enough for the other ones. And then, or they can just go to Resound Coaching. That's my website. And so yeah, resoundcoaching.com is where they can find me as well. But yeah, if they want to just hang out, LinkedIn's the spot.
Yeah. And that will all be in the show notes. And I too, I'm primarily on LinkedIn. And I'm kind of cool enough for Instagram. And the only reason I'm on Facebook is because Instagram connects to Facebook. So there you have it.
I got rid of some of them a long time ago. And I was like, I don't understand this anymore. And I think I'm out. So
yeah.
I'm going to play the old man card.
Yeah. There you go. Hey, isn't that a fun card to play sometimes? All right. Well, this has been awesome, Justin. Thank you so much for coming on.
Of course. Thanks for having me. This is great.
All right, everybody, we will catch you in the next episode, which is actually this week. So remember, 3 episodes in a row. It's going to be awesome. All right, check you guys later. Bye. Hey, listener, I am so honored that you listened to today's episode, and I hope you gained something valuable from it. I'd also be honored if you did me 3 solid favors. First, subscribe to this show. I've got a lot of great content coming up, and I don't want you to miss any of it. Second, be sure you're following me on social media platforms. You can find me at Catch Up with Casey on LinkedIn or Instagram. And finally, if you are looking to book a dynamic and relatable speaker for your next event, conference, or retreat, I would love to bring a message about how the craft of clarity makes a significant impact on both leadership and life. Until next time, always remember, clarity precedes capacity.